So I'm going to start with flexibility, not because I think it's a major one. I'm doing it so that I can give you a VCAR question from last year to complete. I wouldn't choose flexibility as a major one. But having said that, flexibility really is a fitness component that's in almost all sports. Flexibility is the range of movement possible at various joints. Now, I can justify it for LeBron because, look, three-point shot. Now, I argue that in order to do a three-point shot, he would require great flexibility of his shoulders because he needs a large range of motion when attempting the three-point shot. And there's my data. He attempted 8 three-point shots and he obviously got 3 in. Now, there are other sporting examples like gymnastics, dancing, and diving. So it's important for us to know not only the definition of flexibility, it's important for us to be able to look at a sport and say, and justify the inclusion of that fitness component. It's also important for us to know the, I guess, no-brainer sports where flexibility or the fitness component is required. You know, you're great examples. And you've got to admit that gymnastics and diving, absolutely brilliant. Dancing, brilliant examples where the competitors require huge flexibility. Basketball, they need it, but it might not be a major one. So I'm going to sow the seed of fitness tests tonight as well. All right, so there's a few fitness tests there. There's a fantastic teacher advice section, which all students have available to them on the VCAR website that will list every fitness test that VCAR can examine. Now, all 3 of those are on that list. I'm also going to sow a little bit of seed about how to improve every fitness component that we hit tonight. So flexibility training, what type I hear you say? There are 4 types. Static flexibility is when we don't move. Static means stationary. So touch your toes and hold for 30 seconds or 20 seconds. That's a static stretch. We don't tend to do static stretches before exercise. We certainly do them after exercise. Why don't we do them before exercise? There's a fair bit of research out to suggest that they reduce the amount of force that a muscle can produce. So that's not a performance benefit for someone like LeBron. It's certainly not a performance benefit for a power athlete like a long jumper or high jumper. They won't do static stretching before an event. Dynamic, they will do. So dynamic is a moving stretch. So we can ask you to touch your toes for 30 seconds. That's a static stretch. Or we can ask you to do leg swings where you move the hamstring through its full range of motion. Now that replicates what most sports are going to do when they begin, what most athletes, or they replicate the movements that most athletes are going to do once they begin their event. And there's no research to suggest that this decreases the force production of the muscle. So dynamic stretches are used before. Ballistic stretching is bouncing. Most of us have done hamstring stretches and bounced and had a coach tell us off. The reason is there's a high injury rate. Elite athletes will use it. Perhaps beginner athletes shouldn't because of that high injury risk. P&F stretching used by physios is absolutely the most effective method in improving flexibility. It does it very, very quickly. It involves a stretch and then an isometric contraction. And hopefully your teachers will take you through some of these when we get to training methods. I can justify flexibility, as I said. Now, another thing that we need to know, we have to know about these fitness components for the exam and your SAC is we need to know what factors affect each fitness component. Now, I've listed about, what is there, 6 there. You don't need to know 6. What you do need to know, though, is 3 or 4. Not for all of them, but for some real crucial ones. Now, can I give you a tip? Age and gender, those top 2. Doesn't matter what fitness component we talk about tonight, age and gender are a factor affecting it. All right, so age and gender affect every fitness component. So guys, I would suggest to all of you that that's your front pocket answer. If you're asked, give us a factor affecting flexibility, age and gender. Give us a factor that affects strength, age and gender. That's your front pocket answer. Just go for it if you can, because they're easy to remember. However, VCAR know that people go to age and gender all the time. So they'll often say, apart from age and gender, give us 2 factors that affect flexibility. That's when you've got to go to your back pockets, isn't it? So our front pocket answer is always age and gender for every fitness component. And then we need at least 1 or 2 back pocket answers. And I don't care which one you use here, just use the one that sticks in your memory the most. Joint structure for me is an easy one because I teach Year 10 sports science. It's in Year 11 course. A ball and socket joint like the shoulder has greater flexibility than a hinge joint like the knee. Perfect. Muscle temperature is another easy one because that's why we do warm-ups. Right, before your sessions, you need to do a warm-up, which is low intensity aerobic activity, followed by dynamic stretching. And you do it in that order. And the reason you do it in that order is a warm muscle is a more flexible muscle. All right, so here is an answer, a question from last year's exams. It was done fairly poorly for a lower order question last year, and 30% get 0 for that, and only 32% get 2 marks for that. One of the reasons is that they specifically wanted not just the definition, but they wanted you then to say that the person would require a large range of motion around their shoulder joint. Now, you could have said of the lower back as well, but you needed to be very specific about that action that you can see